Two, Felix Waugh leading, Jackson Gill second. Now Chris Raby paying the price for that move on the high side. He'll lose a spot to Demetrios Drelos. Here comes George Foley. Adam Pearson also looking. Now Drelos way up high into turn number 4. Again, he was really fast, rib riding off of 4. Now he'll work into 1 and 2. Let's see if he loses the ground that he made up. Trying to make it stick off the top of turn number 2. He's going to hold serve there. He'll keep his position. He'll come down a spot right in front of Chris Raby. Out front it is Felix Waugh, the 91. Second, it is Jackson Gill, the 60. Matt Williamson runs in third. Fourth is Jeremy Dwap. Rounding out the top 5, Tim Fuller. 12 laps showing complete. Mike Mahaney is 6th. 7th is Drelos. 8th is Raby. 9th is George Foley. And Adam Pearson rounds out the top 10. Billy Dunn looking to the outside of Pearson to get into the top 10. Felix Waugh is pulling away out front. He is really building a lead now. Half the backstretch is the advantage for the Gamache Truck Center number 91. As Jackson Gill is starting to trail off the pace of the 91 machine. 15 laps complete this time by. And Felix Waugh is really serving notice. The Gamache Truck Center 91 is stout.
He is certainly in control, and the cautions early on have kept us from getting into lap traffic, which I'm sure that Waugh is grateful for. Hang on, Lance Willix and David Hebert get together down the front straightaway. Felix Waugh coming around to click off another lap. First car out of line. Oh, trouble. Trouble out of turn number 2. That is Greg Atkins getting a piece of the implement tire that is now firmly in the racing groove. And there's the call for the yellow.
Yeah, it was somebody in front of Greg Atkins that got a piece of that tire. Somewhere in the neighborhood of the Welling number 21, somewhere in that area, that clipped it and then shot it up towards the surface. It moved it pretty good distance down the racetrack. One car going back towards the garage area, Marty. I'm trying to make out who that might be.
That looked like it might have been. Well, I was wrong. Okay. Red car, but it wasn't Welling, and it was not Louis Jackson. It was not Hebert, and it wasn't Stone. And it also was not Jordan Fornwalt. Maybe we'll get a text from somebody that knows who went off the racetrack. Going over my notes to see if I can figure out who is not with us.
Well, Felix Waugh really blasting out to almost a half backstretch advantage on that green flag run.
Wonder if it was...
Oh, you know who it is? It's Matt Williamson.
It is. And you know what? I just got a text from someone who saw who it was. So
it's Matt Williamson.
The faithful...
I beat the text by half a second.
You did beat the text. This is big news. And we will wait to see if we get a report from the pit area as to what has happened to third place runner Matt Williamson. Thanks to both Rob for identifying that, as well as Adam Piper coming through with the message. It's a group effort, race announcing. It really is. We've gotten to do some trivia today where this is good.
We need to work on that link through Dirt Track Digest TV, and the folks at home that can answer trivia. We should come up with trivia time.
We should.
Get questions from folks watching, answers rather, from folks watching at home.
I don't see Williamson. He went right back toward the holler and not at all to the pit area there inside the 518 Mobile RV Repair pit area. So I don't think he's coming back.
They went to check with him as well.
The field is doubled up. Yeah, I see Tony has just ridden the wheeler back over. So tough break for Williamson. Jack Gill on the outside, Felix Waugh. He's led them all so far. What is going to happen here on the restart? We are back underway. Felix Waugh going to lead the way up through 1 and 2. Here's Jeremy Waugh with a look under Gill down the back straightaway. Gill's going to keep the door closed just enough to hold off Jeremy Waugh. Here's Fuller. Fuller's going to step up to the outside now aboard the number 19 car and try to cut his way around Jeremy Waugh. And he will do it down the front straightaway. Fuller is not done. Now he's going to run the middle and try to go after Gill. Keeping the car as straight as he can down the back straightaway. Loses a little bit of ground to Gill. But Fuller right now, last year's opening day winner, has taken the third position away from Jeremy Waugh. Demetrius Drelos is following in his stead, going up to the outside lane right now. George Foley is also playing with the outside, as well as Zach Payne and David Hebert. Oh, hang on, Masterson has got the right side stuck on the back end of Louis Jackson Jr. And Jackson Jr. slow down the backstretch. That's going to bring out the caution flag.
Yeah, the 11X was hooked right on the back of the 18.
That was really bizarre. I've never seen anything quite like that, I don't think.
You talk about racing with an anchor. Firehouse Pizza 18 Jr. is going to make its way back to the garage area. Damage on the left rear. He was dragging Masterson's 11X machine through turn number 2.
So the outside lane is starting to get some more takers as we make our way through the event. More and more people are starting to take their chances up there.
White flag has been displayed to the field. 18 lap showing complete.
Fuller is going to be trapped down on the bottom for this restart. May not be the worst thing. We know the bottom has been really good today, but Fuller's been okay up on that outside lane, especially on the last restart. Drelos will be on the top. Pearson trying to make the top work, and he's going to have an opportunity to start there. Dunn will start there as well as Zach Payne, who's now up to 12th and has also been working the top in the last couple of laps. Green flag back out, 2 laps shy of the halfway point. Jeremy Waugh gets down in front of Tim Fuller. And I think this one's going to come back. Got to have the top 2 in the Hebert's Lawn Care and Landscaping Go Green zone. If they fire before the zone, that is no good. And race control has informed Felix Waugh that if he fires before the zone again, he is going to be penalized 1 row. So Waugh's had his warning on going too early. And that plays into this next restart because the guy on the outside knows, because of the one-way receiver that goes out to all the drivers, he knows you've been warned. And he's able to use that to his advantage sometimes because you can't go early. You can't risk being put back a row. Jack Gill knows that, and he's able to kind of fire right with him. But it's a good restart for Waugh. Does a nice job. Gill's going to fire it up to the top side one more time. Jack Gill is not interested in finishing second here. He is going for the win, or he's going back. It doesn't seem to matter to him. Gill trying to make the most of his first career trip to Airborne Park Speedway. Hang on, David Hebert's off the racetrack. He gets back on. And now here's Drelos. Drelos is up into spot number 5, challenging Waugh for spot number 4 down the back straightaway. We'll be halfway down, halfway to go this time by. Fuller still trying to work the top. Drelos up there as well as Billy Dunn, but the leader, Felix Waugh.
Felix Waugh by about 10 car lengths at the line. Jackson Gill settling back into that second spot. Tim Fuller working in third. Jeremy Waugh back a spot to 4th. Mike Mahaney quietly running inside the top 5. Here comes Chris Raby to 6th. He'll fly past on the inside of the number 97 of Demetrius Drelos. Drelos goes back to the high side off of turn number 4 to see if he can reclaim that 6th position. 6th is Raby, 7th is Drelos. Rim riding through 1 and 2. Adam Pearson runs in 8th. Pearson trying to get a spot away from the 97 now off of turn number 2. Meanwhile, Tim Fuller rim riding through 1 and 2. Mike Mahaney decides it's time to go up there and try it himself. He's managed his car really well through the opening half of the race, and now he's perhaps ready to go to the whip. In the second spot is still Gill. Felix has checked out. It is a full backstretch advantage for the Napierville, Quebec driver, with the Gill running in second. Tim Fuller way up high on the outside, sitting in third. Jeremy Waugh down low, working in 4th. Mike Mahaney trying to figure out the line for the Adirondack Auto number 35, sitting in the 5th position. Chris Raby is 6th. 7th, it is still Drelos. 8th is Pearson. 9th is Billy Dunn. George Foley rounds out the top 10. Dave Camara is 11th. Lance Willix is 12th. 13th is Zach Payne in the 77. 14th is Justin Stone. And David Schilling rounds out the top 15 drivers. Lap 23 just put up on the board by Felix Roy. Tim Fuller is within a car length off the second position. Driving off of turn number 2. Gill opens it back up now to about 3 car lengths. Fuller again trying up high. Mahaney trying up high in 3 and 4. Trying to find some bite and traction towards the front to see if they can advance. Fuller got a good run that time off at number 4. Tried to slide back down to the inside of the 60 with some momentum. Had to get on the binders though, and that broke his momentum heading towards number 1. 25 laps showing complete. Felix Roy check it out front. It's almost a full front stretch advantage.
Roy out in front. 26 laps on the board now. Tim Fuller is all over the back of Jack Gill. I mean, Fuller is right there. He's going to lose a little bit of ground this time by as they work down the back straightaway. But if Fuller goes back to the top in 3 and 4, and he's going to do it, trying to find his way around Gill. Fuller is really able to work the center of the corner well and come out on the back bumper of Jack Gill. If he can just not lose any ground in 1 and 2, he's going to have a chance to pass him here in the next couple of laps. Lance Willix and Dave Camara, they are battling for spot number 11 right now. As Felix Roy beginning to close in on lap traffic. Greg Atkins at the top of the speedway. The first car to put down a lap, and then he'll have some time to breathe again. Jeremy Roy now with a look inside Fuller. Here comes Jeremy. Felix's brother trying to impede the progress of Fuller now, who has lost a little bit of his luster up there in 3 and 4. Fuller trying everything he can do to get by Jack Gill. Jeremy Roy is trying everything he can do to get by Fuller, and he jumps the implement tire and gets together with the veteran. With 10 to go this time by Roy, the leader.
Felix working off at turn number 4. The best battle is for 3rd as Jeremy Roy works the inside of Tim Fuller's 19. Fuller working through the middle of 1 and 2. Jeremy quicker down low on the inside off at turn number 2 has the advantage. Down the backstretch, Jeremy Roy goes to the 3rd spot. Fuller good up on the top side. Slower car up there. Might break his momentum, though, as they work off at turn number 4. Gill 2nd, 3rd. Jeremy Roy at the line. Fuller with momentum going into 1 and 2. Again, we'll see how the slower car, Atkins up on the top, impacts the line of the 19. He's going to have to slide it back down behind Jeremy Roy. And that really establishes Jeremy solid in the 3rd position. Some smoke that time off the back of the, that's actually Lucas Fuller, maybe just some tire smoke on the 74. Also some smoke coming out of the back of the 61 of David Hebert going into turn number 3. 32 laps showing complete. Out front, it is still Felix Roy as he works through slower traffic.
Masterson is camped out on the bottom of the racetrack, and he has made it clear that Felix can go around the outside of him if he wants to get by, and this is not what Felix Roy wanted to see. He comes to the outside of Masterson down the back straightaway, and will Felix be able to get by him? He's running the middle now through 3 and 4. Jack Gill and Jeremy Roy have closed in tremendously in the last couple of laps. Felix Roy gets behind Masterson now and sets his sights on Louis Jackson Jr. in the 18 car. And that leaves Masterson between Roy and the 60 of Gill and the 90 of Jeremy Roy. Side-by-side battle is on for spot number 4. That is Mike Mahaney and Tim Fuller going at it, 1st and 2nd in the point standings here in 2024. And they are fighting with each other once again. Roy coming up on 2 lap cars that are running side by side, and now Jeremy Roy inside of Jack Gill. When they get down to the bottom of turns number 3 and 4, they're still side by side, and that's not going to help either of them gain ground towards Felix. Jack Gill going to try to roll around the outside. He's going to get back by Roy and try to get a good run on Masterson, but he can't. And look at the launch. Jeremy Roy gets a good launch and goes to the inside of Masterson. It is a great battle for the 2nd position right now, while Felix Roy is trapped behind the lap cars of Gagnon and Jackson that are side by side. 3 laps to go.
Well, Jeremy Roy really working that car, everything that it has. He'll vault down the backstretch, again bidding to the inside. Older brother Jeremy Roy trying to chase down his younger brother Felix Roy. Here come the Roy brothers off of 4, 2 laps to go for Felix. Jeremy has closed within 3 car lengths now. Everybody down low to the inside. Felix off at turn number 2. Jeremy within 3. Then it's the 60 of Gill back in the 3rd spot. The field works through 3 and 4. Felix following the lap car that's in front, the slower car in front of him. That is the 18 of Louis Jackson Jr. White flag is out. Felix shows the way. Nobody stepping out of line. Felix, the number 91, down the backstretch. Jeremy won the 90, solid in the 2nd spot with a white flag on the field. They'll follow each other to the checkered flag. The winner of the Leon Gagnon Memorial 40 is Felix Juan.
From Niagara to the Hudson, from Champlain to Erie, from nuclear to farming, High Torque of New York is your one-stop shop for torque tool and industrial bolting needs. Easily loosen or achieve accurate torque and bolt load with pneumatic battery or hydraulic powered units. Serving every industry, mining and aggregates, transportation, energy, structural steel and rail. On-site torque wrench calibration and repair, sales and rentals, training, bolting solutions, and more.
Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another edition here of Monday Night Modifieds with Matt and Mike. Tonight it's just Mike, and stepping in for us is Adam Buchanan. Adam, thanks for being the late co-host here for me, buddy. I appreciate you.
No worries. I'll play super sub any day. Hey, did you show that on purpose, or do you show that highlight of Matt ripping the top every week?
That's Matt every week. Look, it's only fitting, right? For what we have here, Matty's got to get a little bit of love, so we give him some love. All the ball busting I do and all the crap I give him, he's got to get a little bit of love at some point about something that he's done.
So and I might be interviewing him here.
Yeah, right. I give him that little love. Eric came up with it. We give him that little bit of love to start every show. Now, tonight, Matty on assignment in Florida, got some things going on with the fam, so completely understand that. Had to take a night off, and that's okay. I know the real reason though why, Adam, because this week we had another tournament for some trap shooting, little sporting clay shoot, and I had Maddie's partner, and you know what? Last time Maddie had the same partner, they finished 5th. Well, Eric Lee, we finished 2nd. We got Mallett pulled a little weight, Eric shot lights out, and we got 2nd. So that's why Matty's not here. He didn't want the ball busting because we were sending him photos and everything of all the money we won and stuff all weekend. So, we had a little fun with him. But no, don't worry. Next week he's gonna take some heat. He's gonna take some heat about missing this show and missing that opportunity Saturday. Eric was supposed to shoot with him, and then he's like, I got to go to Florida, and he left early to get to Florida. So I guess I'll allow it this time.
I didn't know you were a good shot like that, Mike.
I'm really not. I had a day, man. Sun shines on a dog's butt every once in a while. Well, I happened to be the dog's butt on Saturday. I just shot pretty lights out. I had a good time. I'm getting better, man. Hey, you got to practice. Right? The more you practice, the better you get. And I happened to get better. So it was a good day. It was a really good day, actually. I had a lot of fun.
Awesome.
Still suck on certain shots, but we had fun. So those of you joining the show, we'll have Jessica Power coming up here first about 7:10, 7:15. And then we'll be joined by Eric Mack of DKM Fabrications to talk a wide range of topics. And EMAC don't hold back, so that should be a lot of fun. He's scheduled for about 7:45. So if you're wondering what time folks are popping in, popping out, that's the time we'll be doing that. Before we get into any of the interviews, let's talk a little bit of racing this weekend. We actually had a good amount of racing for the Dirt Modifieds. We had a couple of races on Friday night. Big Diamond kicked off their season. Georgetown Speedway kicked off their season down there in Delaware. Then Saturday we had Grandview Speedway getting underway with the Moneymaker, and Outlaw Speedway getting on underway. If you look down below on the bottom, you can see kind of the results scrolling through there. Big Diamond on Friday night. How about Mike Lasowski getting the big win over Jared Umpenauer, Loudon Reimer, Ryan Watt, and Alex Jankowski making a trek to his old home stomping grounds. Georgetown Speedway, Billy Pouch Jr. Capturing the win. Ryan Godown, Danny Buck kind of getting off the snide, I guess. I mean, he had a third place finish at Bedford, a none too happy third place if you watch the show this week.
He got fed one.
Yeah, he did not like it. Austin Hubbard, Ryan Crachant down there. Grandview Moneymaker, Loudon Reimer put $7,500 in the bank account over Eddie Strada. Eddie Strada is another young guy up and coming. He did pretty well out of Volusia. I expect some more things, bigger things out of Eddie Strada here in the future. Danny Buck backed up that top 5 at Georgetown. He got a third and a third. So you got a pair of thirds on the weekend. Then it was Pouch and Perego. Good to see Anthony Perego. We say the word schneid a lot. He's been on a schneid to start the season. So nice to see him kind of get rolling. And then at Outlaw Speedway Saturday, the 4,000 plus win goes to Alex Payne, a kid we've had on the show here. So good for him. Actually beat Matt Shepard there, which was impressive considering Shepard started on the knob. Got the job done.
Good around Outlaw.
Yeah, he's very good at Outlaw. Then Matt Williamson, Danny Johnson, and Michael Maresca were the rest of the top 5 there. So that's your kind of weekend recap here. A lot went on. I'm happy to see it getting going. I also sat in my chair tonight about 5:45 going, we're there. It's racing season.
Yeah, a lot of different results. I know Grandview had a heck of a crowd too.
Yeah, Grandview.
We're parking way down the street over there, so that's
Grandview always gets a heck of a crowd. We were kind of talking in the group chat here to kick things off about Grandview and what is it about Grandview. And I think, one, it's early season racing, right? Everybody gets a chance to go. 2, everybody I talk to loves the racing there. And I think you either really, really love Grandview or you're not a fan of Grandview, right? Grandview is kind of an old school, up on the wheel.
Elbows are sharpened a little bit around there.
Yeah, you got Nerf bars for a reason, right? Like you got Nerf bars for a reason. That's the Grandview thing. And look, it's hard racing there and it's tough to get in, and what can you complain about when they get 58 freaking cars? Kenny Bruce has a couple stories on the front page. He talked to Loudon Reimer afterwards. Loudon kind of got a little redemption after, the Freedom 76, which is the big race. That's their I guess we could call it I'll call that their crown jewel, Adam, because we're gonna
get on this, huh?
I'll go with the crown jewel event.
Okay.
Look, it's been around for how many years? I mean, it's got, at this point, it pays enough money. It gets a crap ton of cars. We're going to call it a crown jewel.
Yeah, there's that is full contact racing down there.
Yeah. That's what that place is. That's definitely some contact. But exciting. You know what I mean? I've only been to one Freedom 76, and it was the one that I want to say paid $50,000. And it was a fantastic race between Jeff Strunk and Bobby Varon. I mean, one of the best races I've seen. I went as a fan. I sat in the stands, just kind of, and took it all in for my first time. I wanted, some of these big races, I never get to go and just be a fan and watch. So occasionally you want to go and just be a fan and watch. So it kind of did that. And you got to hand a little bit to Jeff Strunk. First time out, brand new team, brand new car, all of that, coming home with a podium finish. Or wasn't he on the podium? What did I do? Did I miss? Yeah, it was Reimer, Strada. Where was Strunk? Did I mess that up?
I messed he was in the top 5. I just saw.
Yeah, I know. I messed it up. Hold on.
I had the Outlaw results because
Yeah, there we go. It was Strunk, Strada. My bad. I missed Strada. I missed Strunk on there. So my bad. Strada got third. I'm awful. I'm terrible. I'm fired. I'll see you guys later. But there you go. Thanks, chum. So. Strunk got second, brand new team, brand new ride. Good for him. Nice to see him come out strong in that car. And he's going to be strong. I mean, it's Grandview. Strunk's a veteran. I mean, they got the big 3, Howard, Von Dorn, and Strunk still there. So yeah, good for them. I can't believe I wrote my results down wrong. I'm such a dumbass.
I rely on my race pass, and I was looking at the field for Outlaw on Saturday. 17 cars, not a huge car count, but I tell you what, the field was pretty strong throughout. We talked about Alex Payne winning. He had to go net 5 spots in order to do that. He started 6th. Shepard from the knob finished 2nd. Matt Williamson 3rd. Danny Johnson 4th. Mike Maresca 5th. That's a pretty solid top 5.
Yeah, that's no joke.
Anywhere you go.
That's no joke. Yeah, and Jeff Megalardo, I assume you were there, Jeff, says another lap or two Strunk wins. Yeah, and he kind of told that to Kenny Bruce. Again, I posted a couple of stories today from that event with Ken Bruce. A couple other stories. We got a really nice piece today out of Steve Ovens. Wrote a story, talked to Doug Doolin, Gary Tompkins about running that throwback paint scheme. So that's up on DTD right now. You know what? Let me actually double check to make sure everything's on DTD right now because
it is. I read it at dinner.
Okay, all right, making sure.
Great story.
Yep.
Yeah.
There we go. Yep. So we got Reimer, we got the Doolin story, we got Strunk. Also have a story about Brockville, and the where is it? Agalivi's Auto and Fleet Triple Crown series coming back. So that's a lot of big money for those guys up there, written by Don Simpson. So a lot there. Don also has another story coming here this week about Alex Payne, kind of the history and all that behind Alex's racing career. So if you're interested in that, he had a chance to kind of embed. If you ever read Don's stories, he embeds with a driver for a whole day, like immerses himself in the team and kind of goes and chats and either at the racetrack meets with them, gets a ton of photos, gets a ton of information. So there's another story there about Don that Don Simpson wrote. And again, he'll have one more this week about Alex Payne. So again, a lot of good stuff here on DTD this week, and it kind of picks up the off season, Adam, because in the off season, it is wicked slow.
Yeah.
Wicked slow.
It's like pulling teeth, but now we're rolling into it. A lot of tracks are starting to open up here a little bit, and then first week of May, it's like the floodgates open.
Yeah, it doesn't end. We showed Airborne this week, and that's coming up here this Sunday. The Leon Gagnon Memorial at Airborne Speedway Park on Sunday. Of course, Can-Am kicks off the weekend with two big nights of racing. You got the 358 series on Friday night, then we come back with the Super Dirt Car series on Saturday. I've seen plenty of videos of them working on the racetrack, getting that ready to go, which is good to see this early in the year. We're supposed to have a couple of nice days this week, so that should also help things out, make things a little bit easier.
I think I saw 70 on the forecast, and I know the Bartletts have been doing have just as many laps as the 100 lapper on the racetrack these last couple weeks. So
yeah, you want to be a promoter and track prep guy all in one. Yeah. You get your laps on the racetrack. You get your 300-400 laps here, especially this time of year with just the weather, and things like that. You want to get on that thing the first kind of nice day you get once it dries up and get that thing as hard as a rock. That way, no matter what happens, you have your best chance of getting things in. I see a question from Adirondack Race Fan talking about car counts at Can-Am. We'll, I don't know yet. Let's think about that one, Adam. We're going to come back to that after we kind of talk to a couple of our guests. All right, we'll wrap up with some thoughts on that because we already have our first guest in the studio, and let's bring her on in, Jessica Power. Hey, welcome to Monday Night Modifieds. How are you?
Doing great, thanks. How are you?
Great. And I love when drivers sit in the shop. That is my favorite thing. So we kind of get to see what's going on back there.
Yep.
And, looking at your walls, looks like you've had a pretty good career so far. You got a lot of checks nailed to the wall. That's usually a good thing.
Absolutely. Yeah. We don't have a really big garage. So I'm thankful that I'm running out of wall space for the checks.
That's good. Where is the Showdown in the Sunshine State trophy? Where did that go? That's what I want to know.
So it is actually in the house with all the trophies. So shop doesn't have any trophies. It's got all the other stuff.
All right. Yeah. I want to make sure that was in the right spot. I mean, that was you had a great Florida trip. We can start there. I mean, just talk about going to Florida. You guys don't get to go down there much. So how much fun was it for you guys to get to go and, of course, get a big win down there during the All-Tech week?
Yeah, it was pretty incredible to end our season last year with a win and start this year with a win. We don't get to go to Florida really all that often. We went with the big block a couple of years ago and had a great time. And when we saw this come up on the schedule, we were so excited to be able to take the Sportsman down there and run, Hoosiers. I know they've had a few American Racer shows, and we don't have any. So the financial investment that early in the year for us just never really made sense. So we were super excited when this show came up and couldn't wait to get there. Can't wait to get there again next year as well with the announcement that it'll be on again. So it was a fairly tight turnaround. I'm not going to lie.
Yep.
You take everything apart and you're everybody says, oh, all winter that race season's coming and you're still never ready.
Yeah.
So we were lucky. We had all of our, everything that went for service and everything. It was all back. So we spent a few extra nights to get the one car ready to go. It's behind me here now, ready to go to hopefully do battle this weekend at Can-Am.
Be positive, think positive.
I know.
If you go racing, it's going to be great.
I won't tell you that it is snowing here right now.
I'm okay. If it makes you feel better, I walked out today and there was like this much snow in my car. And I'm like, what the? I was just outside on Saturday in a t-shirt.
Yeah.
It's snowing. Like, what are we doing?
And it's upstate New York in a nutshell right there.
Yeah,
Well,
exactly.
And Canada as well.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah, we're really close. It's all the same, right?
Yeah.
T-shirt during the day and a park at night. That's what this season is.
And a toque. Don't forget a toque, right? Like, isn't that
That's
the Canadian?
right.
Yeah, you got to have your toque on.
So tell us what your plans are for the season. Where are you running weekly, and are you doing the Sportsman Tour again this year?
Yes, yeah. So we're running Can-Am on Friday nights and Brockville on Saturdays in the full Dirt Car Sportsman Tour. Recent announcement, we're partnered up with a team that's from Canada who has a 358, and we'll be driving their car for eight shows this year. We don't have a 100% finalized schedule yet, but you will see us again, hopefully Friday night at Can-Am with the 358, and then, Brockville, hopefully Mohawk, and definitely to Charlotte at the end of the year.
Yeah, Charlotte seems like a thing the 358 folks are pretty excited about. I mean, I think you've been down there in a Sportsman, but now this will be a little bit different deal for you. And hopefully things go a little better. I know down there sometimes that schedule gets a little wonky or funky or whatever term you want to use for it.
Yeah. They have so many cars to get on the track in such a limited amount of time. I know some people complain we drive all that way and we don't really get to turn that many laps. But for us, it's a great way to end the season. It's relatively speaking relaxing. You're kind of done with all your regular weekly stuff. You're done with the series, and we go down there for some R&R, enjoy the warm weather, and we get to race on one of the biggest stages there is in racing. So we just appreciate it for what it is. And it's some long days on I think it's the Friday schedule. We unload and do a heat race and load back up, and that's all. And you could be there for 6 or 7 hours. But again, you need to be, I would say, for anybody that's thinking about going, be prepared for that. And it is what it is. You get to watch some really great racing in the other classes in the downtime. You can explore Concord and Charlotte. It's just a lot of fun.
And it's not freezing either.
That's right. It's getting cold up here, so it's nice and warm down there.
Don't push that, man. I've been to Charlotte for World Finals, and I'm wearing a parka and a toque. It's so cold. Like I'll speak Canadian for you. It is freaking freezing down there sometimes. Yeah. So it seems like it's once every 4 or 5 years. Yeah, right. It's once every 4 or 5 years you get that really crappy. I'm gonna freeze my ass off type of weather down there.
Yeah, a couple years ago it was like that.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. And it sucks because it's like I drove all the way here and I just want to be warm, and it isn't.
That was like Florida this year, though. I drove all the way to Florida, and I was standing in Victory Lane, and I think it was Mimi. She said, "Oh my God, you're so excited! You're shaking." I was like, "No, I'm so cold."
You're a Canadian. You're supposed to be used to that.
Yeah, I know. I was unprepared to go all the way to Florida and have it be that cold.
You were thinking you were escaping the cold.
Pretty much. Yeah. I mean, we were escaping the level of cold that we had here, but it was still cold there.
Yeah, cold in Florida is a different cold. I don't think people get that. It's a way damper cold. Yes. Like 40 degrees in Florida, it might as well be 25 degrees. Like it feels ridiculously cold.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll give you that one. So now, again, you mentioned it in the first answer. I gave you a whole year to be prepared now. So hopefully we get a few more of you folks to make that trek down there.
Yes, absolutely. We've been telling everybody that we talk to, they got to plan, right? Because I get it. Sportsman teams don't have a big budget, sometimes don't have a lot of crew, time off work. Start planning now. And make it a bucket list thing, right? You have to go and race in Florida. You have to go and race in Charlotte. These opportunities don't always come up. So when they do, do your best to be prepared and make it there. Make it a great show for the spectators. Make it a great show for DTD TV, and get support. Your sponsors, right? Your sponsors get to see you on TV in February, which is a bit different for sportsman teams.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you and I kind of chatted about it in the before about how tough it is, with the quick turnaround. You mentioned that and how making that trek. But again, I think it's cool to put you guys on a big stage like that, and we're very fortunate. As you mentioned, the DTTV guys. Matty Williamson approached and said, "Hey, what do you think about doing this?" Like, you're crazy and you're stupid. That was my line to him. And then he talked to George, and George was like, "Hey, we're gonna go." I'm like, "What?
We're doing it."
But thankfully it worked out, and it seemed like everybody had a good time down there. I think that was the one thing that every guy I talked to, every person I talked to afterwards was like, we had a lot of fun. And I think that's what we don't get to do a lot of when you're up here points racing and all the other things, right? I mean, it definitely isn't a lot of fun at times.
Yeah, for sure. And I would say that's the biggest thing, right? Once you start points racing, that's why Charlotte's sometimes so fun, is there's no pressure. Sure, everybody wants to go and win. That's the nature of this sport, but sometimes you don't stop and reflect on it being fun because you're so worried about getting to the next race or getting that extra point. So it's nice to kind of push that from your mind and just do it for the sake of doing it.
Yeah, talk about getting the 358 deal. How'd that deal come together for you? I know it's a team that doesn't, they wanted to cut back a little bit on racing, it seemed like, and that kind of ideally fit your schedule since you're limited, right? You said in the press release you can only run 8 races because after that, Dirt Car will take your sportsman status away from you and kind of force you to move up for the year.
Yeah, we've been talking about moving up for a couple of years now. As with anything, budget's the determining factor. I realize I've been racing sportsmen a long time, and lots of people feel I should move up. But
you're still 25 years old. What are you talking about?
Oh, God bless you. Thank you, Mike. We can't do it ourselves. So we dabbled a little bit last year. We're lucky we own one 358 motor. So we do a handful of races. We don't want to lap it out if we're not sure what we're going to do, because like you said, it ruins our chance to go back and sportsman race and go travel all over. So the Buzzell family actually reached out to us. I think just about the time we were getting ready to come down to Florida, and said, do you think you'd be interested in driving a 358? And, we said, yes, but we're committed to sportsman this year, right? We have all our sponsors lined up, our schedule lined up. We're committed to, a 50 or 60 race schedule. We can't turn our back on that. So we kind of let them sit with that for a little bit. And they reached out after we got home from Florida and said, we'd like to do the 8 race deal, keep it within the limit. They're a great family. They own an insulation business up in Renfrew, Ontario, and they have young kids with all the sports and all the activities, and they just don't always have the time to commit to, the maintenance and getting to the track every week. So hopefully it's a good fit for them and for us. We have the car here. I can spin it around. You can kind of see it there. It's pretty much ready to go. So they brought it down 3 weeks ago now. They gave us a call and said, are you ready? Is there room in your shop? And you can't tell from where I am, but it is a 2-car garage at most. So we were like, where's our spare car gonna go? So, we made some arrangements and we've made it work, but we're just so thankful for the opportunity. Like I said, I really hope that they're happy with how it goes. If it does, we'll see what next year brings. Maybe we can put together a full schedule in a 358 and, take that step and officially move up. But yeah, I didn't want to do more than 8 and ruin my chances of staying in sportsman.
Right. So 2-part question with that. We understand why Dirt Car does it, because NASCAR does it even on a higher level. You don't want people jumping back and forth, but you alluded to it. Clearly you have the talent to drive a 358. It is purely a budget thing. Do you feel like the limiting the 358 races? Do you agree with that? Would you like to see it changed? What are your thoughts on it?
That's a really tough one. That's maybe a loaded question.
Sorry to put you on the spot.
Hey, don't be afraid here. This is safe space here. You can say whatever you want.
Everyone has their opinions. At fair.
I'll start by saying I don't like it. I understand the 358 big block. I understand that, but the sportsman of 358, I think that I don't like that.
Well, and I kind of look at it as, if you allow 358 drivers to do as many big block shows as they want and vice versa, how is it any different from sportsman to 358? I'm honestly maybe a little bit 50-50, because I see that side of it, and I've had the opportunity, and I'm fortunate enough to have these chances to do it. But for people that don't, how would I feel as a sportsman driver if, a Matt Williamson came back and wanted to race sportsman against me every night? I am going to get, pardon me, but my ass waxed every night by that, right? So it's like, I don't know that I really want to do that. But I will say, and I've heard some NASCAR interviews with the same notion that if I have to race with them, it makes me better, right? When I go out and race through 58, obviously I'm not at the front because I have something to learn every time I hit the track from everybody I race against. 358s are way more on top of their game. They're more aggressive in a good way. If you give an inch, they will take it. Whereas in sportsmen, there's some people that will, but for the most part, people give each other space. So it's definitely kind of a mixed bag. If I was getting my butt kicked every week by a 358 or big block guy, I might change my tune a little bit, but I do think it's nice to be able to go back and forth.
Especially in my opinion, the sportsman 358, we want to see the car counts grow, right? We're excuse the term, grassroots, right?
Yep.
So if we can increase the car count by, say, hey, it works for you to bring both the sportsman and 358 one night, and you can run both, and you're not worried about jeopardizing your points, because like you said, you have commitments to run the full sportsman tour this year. But say on a random night a 358 works for you, you can't jump in it, and we got to be down a car because of that rule. I'm not a big fan of it. I understand, I understand the need for the rule, but I don't like it. So I'm right there with you, Jessica. I don't like the rule. We should get rid of it.
It's like I said, I get it. For 75% of the sportsman teams, they don't want to have to compete against the best of the best. And I'll be honest, going to Charlotte, thinking about that show, I'm almost thankful that I think Georgetown is the same weekend. So all the big block guys that might have raced it, they're not going to come, right? So it improves my chances of having a good run. But generally speaking, again, if you want to be the best, you have to race with the best and learn how to beat them, or at least hang with them. So I look at it more as an opportunity for me to grow. I don't care how many years you've been doing this. Everybody's always learning something new.
Now, you talk about all the years you've been doing it. How'd you get started? I already said you're 25, so how'd you get started?
So when I was a teenager, just a minute ago,
years ago,
just a couple, my grandmother took me to a little local farm stand in Kingston here, and there was a young guy that was running the farm stand, and he drove a race car, and he asked me to go and watch him one night, and my parents said, like hell, are you going with some strange boy to some racetrack by yourself? So they came with me, and we had an amazing time. My family has never been involved in racing. We didn't really know what it was all about. My dad knew the O'Brien family just from business in town here, but we'd never really been. So we had a fantastic time. We're still good friends with that person that I met. So they introduced us to it. My dad and I built a 4-cylinder car in our driveway at home when I was 15. And we've been doing it ever since. I raced 4 cylinders for 3 years, I think, and three and a bit years in total. And then I moved up to sportsman in 2008. Got hurt the very first year, so I was out half the season, but then we've been at it full time ever since. So you can do the math. I'm
not doing any math. I teach social studies for a reason.
There you go. Exactly.
Talk about okay. You said your shop's small now with a 2-car garage. You're building a 4-cylinder in your driveway.
Yeah. So this is our home now. When I lived at home, we had a 1-car garage, which had my dad's boat in it. So we would,
before the boat.
I was going to say, Dad doesn't get to go fishing nearly as much anymore.
Yeah.
We built the car. He's in the automotive trade. So he called a couple buddies at wrecking yards, and he found a car, and we brought it home and stripped it and welded the roll cage in it in our driveway. We'd take tools in it at the shop, and it lived in the driveway on an open trailer for a few years. That's just kind of what it was. And I shops make things way more convenient, as do nice trailers, but they don't win races. So you do what you got to do.
I love it. And then you jumped into a sportsman, and then now you're getting 358 opportunities. So that is awesome. I love the progression, because there's people watching you in a 4-cylinder class right now that'll be like, look what Jessica, where Jessica started and where she's at now. So
absolutely, yeah. And it's been, like I said, it's been a lot of years in sportsman, but I'm always learning something new. There's always haters online that are complaining about why does she still run sportsman and whatnot, and I tell everybody the same thing. I would love to move up if somebody had a motor program.
That is the expense that gets you. I mean, look, because the cars are basically identical. You can pretty much take it, motor in, motor out, and go. For the most part, there's some obviously some little changes and stuff, etc. But you gotta, the motor program is definitely changing. And again, even the crate. Let's be fair, even crate racing is getting a little bit more expensive. And you mentioned it starting in 4 cylinders. How many tracks even run 4 cylinders anymore that people can get a start in? I mean, that's not a normal class anymore at most racetracks.
No, we're lucky up here. They have them at Brockville still. They have them at Can-Am, but the car counts are definitely dwindling. Just with, I think, a few reasons, but the cost of motors has gotten a little bit out of hand. At least up here, people are spending more on 4-cylinder motors than we spend on our crates. So
that's wild.
I know it is.
That's insane.
It is.
But let's be fair, you're racers, and anytime you can spend a little bit more money to go faster, you're gonna stop.
Of course.
Yeah, right.
It's not even a question.
Right, it's every racer's addiction. I completely understand.
And with an unlimited budget, because so many people have those, you'd be in a big block. That's
right. Yeah, sure. Yeah. Running just race cars full time, right?
Right.
I wouldn't need to work. We just have race cars, but that is not the world that we live in.
You better win pretty much every race you run in a sportsman if you want to do that.
Correct. Yes.
That's Yeah. So talk about your career. What do you feel like is your biggest accomplishment as a driver? Like, what is that one win you look at and you go, man, this is awesome? And along with that, what was your first win and how did that come?
So my biggest win, without a doubt, would be Charlotte last year. Alltech is a close second, though. I'll be honest.
I'll take top 5. I was happy with top 5.
There you go. We've that's a tough one, actually. It may be tied for second, but no, it was really special. Again, that stage is incredible. Just such a cool experience. And Alltech, we went there with not a lot of expectation, right? Brand new place. Just I've heard different surface, tire wear, all the things that make it challenging. But to come out of the box and be that successful, we were pretty excited about that. My first win in a 4-cylinder car way back when, I think 2004, was at Brewerton Speedway, which is where I started racing. It wasn't too long into the season. It was June. And for the first few years of my racing career, I was like the June winner. Everything that I won was always in June, which was random. But I would say my first win in sportsman was pretty special. That came at Brockville in, I think, 2009 or 10. So I was lucky to win pretty early in my career. I had a win at Can-Am Speedway 11 years ago now. My grandfather passed away on the Wednesday and we raced on Friday, and everybody said, why are you going? And I said, because he would have said, what are you going to do for me at this point? Right? Go and do what you do. And I won. And that was a pretty special moment for the family. And that was a big one for us, but without a doubt, the biggest one was Charlotte last year.
Yeah, no doubt. I can understand that. I'll allow the Florida race to be second. That's okay. That's okay. That's fine. I'll let it slide this time, but just know you're on my do not call list. No, just kidding.
And next year, if I win, that better be number 1.
Better be number 1. Yeah,
okay.
You got 2 wins down there. You'll be the all-time winningest driver in our version. What keeps you going in racing? Why you keep going? I mean, is it just the addiction? Is it the love of it? What is it?
That is a great question. And I work with a few people, they'll say, oh, what are you doing this weekend? It's like, I'm racing. That's all.
Right.
You don't even have to ask.
What do you do every weekend? Everybody goes racing on the weekend.
Until November, don't even ask. You know what the answer is.
Right.
And they always ask me the same thing. Why do you still do it? It's just love of the sport, I think, right? It's some people call it an addiction, and I think to some extent it is.
Oh, it is. It is. Don't sugarcoat it. It is.
It is. It really is. Because if you ask anybody else, why do you spend all your time and all your money and your effort and blood and sweat and tears on this and win $500 at the end of the day? Because we love it. It gives me an opportunity to meet a ton of great people. I've made some lifelong friends racing. My crew, they're like family to me. Most of them are family. But it gives me so much time with the people that I love doing the thing that I love. So I can't see doing anything else. I don't know what I would do with myself if I wasn't in the shop 3 or 4 nights a week and at the racetrack at least 2.
Yeah, I think all of us that work in racing can whether you race or work in racing, etc. It's an addiction to doing something you love to do, right? Like there are days when you're like, what am I doing? Why am I going to the racetrack tonight? All my friends are going out on the boat, and I could be on the boat, getting some sun, having a few beers, having a good time, and here I am driving to a racetrack. Yeah, right, and just annoyed at myself. But then if you don't go, I'll sit here. I live 5 minutes from Brewerton. If I'm home, I think I've missed one. But I think I've missed one race ever when I've been home when Brewerton was racing. Like that's it. Like it's like I have to go.
Yeah.
Even those days you sit here, I'm like, I don't want to go. I'm going to stay home. I need a night off. Nope, I'm going to the races. It's just right.
I'm in my 17th year at Brewerton, and I've missed one show, and I think it was because I had COVID. And I live even closer than Mike does to the racetrack, so I can hear it off my back deck. Yeah. It was the weirdest thing. I'm like, I can't believe I'm missing a show right now. It is literally right there. It drove me nuts all night.
Yeah.
Like I can't go anywhere. I have COVID, but I can't get away from the sound either. I'm watching on my race pass.
Yeah.
So
I know when we go to Super Dirt Week and the way they have the schedule now with sportsmen, everything's staggered. On the days the sportsmen don't race, I'll be in the motorhome. We're right in the pits with our equipment, and I'll hear cars on the track. And it's like I get ants in my pants. I'm like, I can't sit here. I have to go. I have to go see what's happening. What's happening? Are there cars out? Do I need to get my car out? Are they going to call us to the line?
Am I going to miss my heat?
Yeah.
That's awesome. So we have a weekly watcher here, Cody Decker, and he always asks us this question. Who do you think is the greatest modified driver of all time? So every week we ask the same question.
And then I have a follow-up once you're done.
Okay. That's a tough one because all time is a long time. There's been some greats.
No, you're only 25. You're only 25, so you don't have a long time of history
that's
here.
Right.
But yeah.
And I, like I said, my family wasn't involved in racing, so the Doug Carlisle days and some of the original guys that were incredible in the sport. I didn't get a chance to meet them or grow up watching them. Certainly, I'm a big Stuart Friesen fan. He'd be on the top of my list. Certainly, Matt Williamson, Matt Shepard, they've all made a name for themselves. There's a lot of up-and-coming guys, young guys that are doing really, really well. I don't know that I could pick one best of all time.
This is a cop-out answer. No,
I know.
I'm going to just say she said Stuart Friesen.
I was going to say that was the first name I said. If you want to take that, that's fine.
You can have Stu. We asked a driver that, and who was it we asked that said Stewart? There was one of the drivers said Stewart.
Yeah. So Mount Rushmore, he's up there. So here's my follow-up question. So it's a two-parter. Who's the best sportsman driver of all time, and who do you enjoy racing around the most?
Ooh, all right. Best sportsman racer of all time. I'm gonna give Brad Rouse a shout out. He did it a long time. I raced with him a lot. He was pretty great. Tough competitor. Always knew that I had my work cut out for me when I raced with him. But tons of great racers, right? I had the opportunity to race against Dave Marcichelli and Rocky Warner and some of the guys that have now moved up and moved on, but all great racers. Who is the best? Do you say the best person to race around?
Yeah, who's your favorite driver to race around and beat at the end of the day?
Oh, and beat. Okay.
You pass them, you wave by, you're sitting in victory lane, and they're behind you.
Well, I mean, there's some people that I want to drive by and wave at. Who
probably want to do something else too, but we won't mention that here.
That's right.
Family show. That's why I said wave. Mike Fowler, what?
Yeah. He passed me one night at Can-Am and I thought I was on the bottom. He was underneath me. And he said after, he's like, I waved to you. Did you see me? I was like, no, I didn't see you. I didn't even know you could make room down there. I think about people like Cody McPherson and Shane Pecor, right? If you can beat them on any given night, you're definitely doing something right. They're both strong competitors, have a lot of respect for both of them. We've had our differences over the years, but tons of respect, I think, for each other on the racetrack now. And again, if you can be there with them or beat them on any given night, you're definitely doing something right.
So we got a fan question here. Jeff Withy writes for DTD once in a while when he can. Asked, so a couple of weeks ago, we had Mike Bruno on, and Mike Bruno talked about, with the crates getting as expensive as they are, maybe open the rules up and allow some things to be done. So he says, what do you think about the comment that Mike Bruno has made about the cost of the Chevy Sportsman engine and the inability to refresh your current motor? Maybe get a list of parts to use and build your own to save money. What do you think about that? I know because I know the Chevy is getting up there now.
Yeah. Especially here in Canada, I think they're up to like 12,000 to now Canadian. So that's, 12 cents American, but, they're certainly pricey. That is also we actually had a big conversation about that in the shop, not long after that was aired. And I think the challenge is always tech, right? And keeping everybody inside that box. I think having a sealed motor does not guarantee anything. They brought these seals out and they're better than the bottle caps, but I am sure with enough resources and time, there is a way around every seal known to man. So to think that people aren't screwing around with engines now, I think you'd be foolish not to think that. I think it's maybe a little bit harder with the seals, or maybe it dissuades people a little bit. But I think opening it up, yes, it would make it more affordable, but I think they'd have to get a lot heavier on the tech that they do, particularly on the motor, right? I think you give a little and you're going to have to but you're going to have to give a lot more on the tech side to make sure that people are staying inside those lines, coloring inside those lines. If they open it up and say, this is the spec rod you can use and the piston and the ring and everything else, and maybe they're not GM, but you can go ahead and put it together yourself and then take it and have it sealed or whatever. I think you need to be prepared to have your engine pulled and maybe pulled apart at the racetrack. And that's a big deal for a sportsman team. We were lucky enough that we have a spare, a whole spare car and a spare engine, but that would still put us out, right? That's a tough thing to contend with when you're trying to race the next night or whatever. So I think it's just a case of how much is broadly dirt car or any sanctioning body willing to put into tech and making sure everybody is doing things the way they're quote unquote supposed to versus making sure the cost is still manageable for sports teams.
Here's a wild question, because there's racing divisions in the Midwest that live and die by this rule, the claimer rule. What are your thoughts on an engine claimer? Because to be honest with you, a sportsman motor is supposed to be a crate GM engine that shouldn't be blueprinted or anything crazy like that. What are your thoughts as a sportsman driver who's been in the sportsman ranks a while? Would you welcome if Dirt Car took a poll and said, hey, we're thinking about kicking around a claimer rule? If somebody put up some money and said, hey, I think that's illegal, and if it's not, or do some kind of like, I want to claim that motor, I'll put up the money, now that motor's mine, here's another fresh one out of the box. What's your thoughts on a rule like that?
Another
loaded question. I'm sorry.
It is. Yeah. No, it's okay. This is my opinion alone, and I don't know that my team would back me on this, but I would be okay with it, assuming that, if they protest or claim your motor and they take it, you get a fee, whatever that fee is, $500, $1,000, because it's your time. You got to pull an engine out and then put another in. As long as you were getting a replacement that was, I'm going to say
greater value.
Yeah, but also verified in some way. Like, I don't want to get the motor that they've swapped in and out of 15 cars already this season. And it's been, it was in Joe's car for 4 weeks. Did he change the oil? Did he run it hot? I don't know where that motor's been. If it's new out of the crate, sign me up. My motors are 2019s. I just got a new one last year. So, if somebody wants to claim it and take it, you can have at it. And I think I feel that way because we color inside the lines. I have nothing to hide. I have nothing to worry about. I'm sure some people who also have nothing to hide would not agree. They don't want to have to go through that effort, but I don't know. I think we had a claimer rule at one point on shocks. Maybe there is still a rule on shocks, or a claimer. I don't know, that you don't hear about it a lot, but that's one way to keep people honest. You're never going to completely keep people honest, but it's an option.
Or the cost down, because I hear the shot game's crazy now too.
Yeah. Oh yeah. People are building all sorts of wild stuff. I'm lucky to have a Bilstein deal. They've been fantastic to work with, but I can call them up and explain what I need and they'll build me anything I want. Obviously legal, but you can do so much with a shock now that, 5-10 years ago, it was like, well, I don't know, just put it on the car. There's valves and pistons and shims and oil. Great.
Do you own a shock smasher?
We own a spring smasher and a shock dyno now. Yes.
Okay. Is that almost like you need one nowadays?
You definitely need a spring smasher without a doubt. I think my team will laugh at this. If you're as picky as me, you probably want a shock dyno because I'm picky. I notice really small things. They call me the princess in the pea because if I get a rock in my seat, I will know. They bug me all the time. I'm like, the motor sounds different tonight. It's in your head. There's nothing wrong with it. And then, a week later we find that, one plug is fouled up or something. So it helps because I now have the opportunity to race on Friday night and say, I tried something. I didn't really like it. I need a little more of this or a little less of that. And I can come home and change it and have it ready and race it the very next night. There's still that option for people without a shock dyno. It's not a requirement, but it means you have to take that shock off your car, box it up, send it to somebody who can rebuild it for you. They change it, they ship it back, they put it on your car, you race it. It's been a week, it's maybe been 2 weeks, there was a rain out. Do you remember exactly what you felt? Is the track the same? Do you know what you really needed? So it gives you the opportunity for almost instantaneous change or feedback.
Well, Jess, we don't want to keep you too long here. It's 7:47, so we want to say thank you. And any sponsors, any folks you got to thank before we let you go?
Of course. Yes. You can see one, although it's backwards. I really couldn't do it without, first of all, my team. I got to give them a huge shout out. But my amazing sponsors, Green Shield Pest Control, Mobile One, Bilstein Shocks, Genic, Shocker Hitch, HP Speed, Velocita, Strange Oval, Bilstein. I think I said Bilstein already. iBox Springs, SRI Performance, Bicknell Racing Products, Burt Transmission, Henry's Exhaust, Primal Tees. They did our awesome merch up. You can get that online if you don't have any. I see Mikey. I think you have yours on. Speedy Auto Service. I'm going to turn around and look. I know I'm doing the thing you're not supposed to do.
I give you credit for getting this far. Some drivers can't list after 3. So,
well, there you go. GB Carburetors, M2 Metals helps us out. VP Fuels. I am sure that Sean is in the house watching this, probably cursing at me for somebody that I forgot. Yep. Oh, Dash Lawn Care. They've been with us a really long time. And I'll say Pure Insulation and Spray Foam with the 358. That's a new one for us. So again, we really couldn't do it, as all of racers, right? We couldn't do it without the fantastic support of the people that love this sport.
They always like spending money, and that's what keeps racers going.
Pretty much.
Yep. Well, hey, Jess, thanks a lot. And I will see you this weekend. I'm just calling it now. All right. I'm going to see you this weekend. Friday and Saturday, we're going to be at Can-Am. All right.
I love it. All right.
All right, Jess, you have a good night.
Thanks a lot, guys.
Thanks, Jess.
Thank you.
Bye.
So there's Jessica Power giving us a little rundown on what she's looking forward to and ready for with a 358 debut here, or not debut, but 358 new team getting ready to go here for this weekend at Can-Am. And we'll get right into it. We don't mess around here. So EMAC, we'll bring him on in. Eric Mack from DKM Fabrications. How we doing tonight, sir?
Doing good for a Monday.
Who?
Doing good.
Not bad for a Monday. I can hear him, Mike. You hear him?
Okay, yeah, okay. I got my internet sucks right now. I don't know what is up. I've frozen 92 times. So I'm just gonna assume you guys can hear.
I'm talking through my phone and you got the whole Howard Stern set up.
Yeah, well, yeah, man. Come on. I have Howard Stern without the ladies here at this point. All right. I got Adam instead of Robin.
I cost way less.
Yeah, right. I'm just doing it to look the part. Okay, that's it. I'm sitting at my dining room table right now. It's not that cool. I just hung a flag in the background. Well, EMAC, how's the off season going? I mean, it's got to be, I would assume this is your guys' busy time of the year, just starting to wrap up that real busy time of the year.
Yeah, it's like we're right at the end here. There's light at the end of the tunnel, so we'll see how the beginning of the year goes. If we get a couple rainouts, then that's probably the slowest time of the year we got. But right now we're just finishing up, getting bodies lettered, finished panels and bumpers, and last minute of everything for guys.
Yeah, and you guys don't just do that anymore. I mean, you got the DKM models now and all that. I mean, you guys have really expanded the business and taken it to another level. I mean, and those models are badass. I got them. Yeah. I know I bought some from you. I had them made for Monster Bash, and they're pretty awesome.
Yeah, we do we start about doing like a lot of different things for, like it could be decorations for a side of a house, to anything, we still do a ton of mostly all race car stuff still, and then we do a lot with Pioneer window and aluminum window arches and all that stuff and backing plates for windows for skyscrapers. And so we got a whole like area for just doing that now. And it's getting pretty crazy here.
How did you just decide to get into the chassis business? Talk about the history of DKM and kind of where it came from and what kind of got you guys all together and all your partners to kind of to go that direction.
Well, when we were kids, we hung up the Maynard frets and, we'd go there every day. We'd had the speed shop and everything. And then, Maynard passed. And then I got into the bar business, and then I had a bar, then I had a restaurant. And then halfway, just when I had an offer for the restaurant, and I got rid of I sold the other bar. And then we had the stuff like the router and stuff, Chippy had it. So we started screwing around with that, and it's like, let's make something out of this. So, me and Dave started going down there, and then we started doing bodies, and then, we were really good with, really in with T.O. and them guys, and we're like, hey, let's cut out your bodies, So so me and Dave went to T.O. one day with graph paper. We traced out all the bodies, and in his old house, we'd sit up he had like a third floor attic with a table, and I'd sit there on graph paper and give points, and he'd put it in a computer. And so then we started, we got all that done, and then we started doing all of T.O.'s bodies. And at that point we're up and running, and then we started more and more bodies and hanging them. And, then at that time there was still Dirt Week, where we did the Syracuse bodies. And so I kind of stayed pretty busy. I'd have a helper. Dave was still working at GE as an engineer and stuff. And, then we also had another friend, Kyle. He was in with us. He was another engineer. And so we started getting bigger. And then, then we got to a point where, we wanted to move on and we wanted to do something, So we decided to try out a first race car. We did one with Kyle and Dave. And Dave won quite a bit with it at Fonda. And a little bit I think he run rolling wheels all over with it. And then the year after, that's when we came out with the first Stu one in 17. And it's been like that ever since, as far as, building cars.
Now, Matty Smith's not on tonight, but he did ask a question that he wanted to make sure you answered. You guys have always been innovators. You've done some different things. You've had some rules made, I think, that were in part because of some things you guys were doing. But yeah, and he asked, what do you think should be done to advance these cars further, to get them further along?
We talk about that. We talk about advancing, and, you're watching it with all racing nowadays and everything. I think we're getting to the point where, you know what, we're only going to go so fast, and and it's getting to the point. As crazy as it sounds, and I might listen, everybody might think that I'm dead wrong, but I think racing needs kind of a setback. And what
Mhm.
I mean by that is it's advancing so much that it's lost its luster, it's lost its following, it's a little bit of everything. I mean,
Mhm.
I talk to people that have been around races forever, and it's like, yeah, a lot of people just don't really care to go anymore. And I've been talking. This is all we talk about, and and it's like, okay, we got all the new suspension stuff and everything else, and oh, you know what? If we do this and do this, we're gonna go backwards. Well, I mean, years ago, and let's go back to before I was around. Modifieds had A-frame suspensions, and Whip Mulligan used to build all them cars, and Donnelly came in and said, "Guess what, guys? We're gonna put straight axles in these things, and this, that, and." That was a setback, and I mean, but I feel like that was probably a good thing. I feel like racing is getting to the point where, and it's all racing, it's NASCAR, it's everything. Like, I don't think the longevity of the people and everything is getting less. And to build heroes, me and Stu talk about this all the time. I feel like we should go back to cars that are a little slower, don't get into the track as much. um I feel like you like it should be where I want these guys, like, the Stews and the Matt Shepherds and everybody, when they're in their 50s, they should have the glory years. I feel like Brett and Danny and Alan and
Mhm.
Jack Johnson and everybody had, where I just feel like we're in a box now and everybody's doing the same. And I feel like the younger kids that, I mean, they listen, they're excellent, and
Mhm.
they're really too good, actually. But the learning curve is gotten so much shorter that, you know, perfect example is, Alex ran Stu's car at Eastern States, and I
Mhm.
mean, he killed him. You know what I mean? And
Mhm.
after the race, we're sitting up in the thing, and I looked at Stu, he looked at me, he goes, "Geez, made that look easy." Well, yeah, but I go, just think, Stu, when you were Alex's age, you know what I mean? It was
Mhm.
taking a miracle to freaking beat the guys. And I
Mhm.
just feel like I feel like it's I feel like we're losing, like, the upper end of this, where them guys are the heroes. No different than
Mhm.
NASCAR. Like right now, like I feel like the Earnhardt Juniors and Gordon, maybe, and um Carl Edwards, who retired. I mean, the guy could probably still do backflips out of the race car, and he's retired. And I feel like all that stuff is taken over, where I just don't feel like we're going to have our good guys 10 years down the line, because
Mhm.
young kids are going to take over.
Yeah, you kind of grew up in the same era as I did. I'm assuming we're close to
Yeah,
the same age, but growing up watching, Jack and Dave and Lou, again, they were still winning well, late into their careers,
exactly.
and the technology was relatively unchanged, right? I mean, it was kind of the same, yeah, we went from the Gremlins and I can't remember what the other, the show car kind of stuff, but,
Pintos. Yeah.
and then we kind of got into the early 2000s and late 90s, everything was the same, right? Everything was
Yep.
the same and nothing changed.
Well, that's the thing. Like, I feel like Glenn Donnelly was really good with that. So, like, in 85, 86, 87, modifieds were on top of the world, dirt
Hmm.
wheels, everything else. And what he say? Oh, guess what, guys? We're going to switch these things. We're going to widen them up. We're going to put windows in them, and we're going to have the new body styles.
Hmm.
And I feel like ever since, like that, like we haven't had like a mix up or change. So, a lot of people I talk to, you know, is like, yeah, this is kind of stale, especially the
Hmm.
people that have been in it. If
Yep.
you look at a modified from 1978, like a Grand King car, and then you look at a 87 show car or an 87 Troyer or whatever, it's crazy how much these cars have changed in such
Hmm.
a short time. Where if you look at a car from 2005 to now, yeah, they look kind of the same, you know what I mean? And
Hmm.
I feel like some of that hasn't been able to. You got to keep things changed up a little bit, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
So
I
do you
know,
feel like it's more like a Rector set modifieds where they're all just so similar you could put it together and there's not much change?
well, the thing is, in our
How would you go about changing it?
see, the thing is, it's a double-edged sword, because to do what you could do on your own in '85, or, you know, in that era to now would cost a ton more, you know? So back in the day when guys built something, they took a piece of steel or aluminum, hacked it off, ground it down, and drilled it. Now today you would take it, you would have a guy draw it up, and by the time you were done, you'd have a torsion arm worth $700 if you only bought one. You know what I mean?
Right.
So, you know, I mean, with today's stuff and the way of the cost of everything and everything else, I feel that you kind of need something where, you know, you can buy it, but yet there's no creativity. You know what I mean? I feel like, okay, there should be different options, you know, where I feel like the cars should have different options to them where they look different. You know what I mean? And
Well, I'm a cell panel guy. You probably aren't, but I love cell panels.
you see, I'm not, but still, because I feel like that just hooks the cars up even more. You know?
Yeah,
I mean?
fair enough. Fair enough.
I feel like, you know, at the end of the day, if the cars are going, you know, say Fonda, for instance, when it's heavy, you know, it's like 120 miles an hour.
Yeah, you're moving.
So
you're moving.
I feel that if the cars were unhooked, even on that kind of track, it'd be more fun to watch. You know what I mean? No, you know, like the cars that bounce around, like the cars at the Chili Bowl, you know, I mean, you know, they bounce around, they don't get into the track like these cars do. And the racing is incredible, you know, I don't know, you know what I mean? It's like I said, I mean, I got my opinion, you know, there's probably a ton of people that said, you know, you're effed in the head or whatever, but I don't know. That's where I feel like it needs to go. I feel like we need to build heroes, you know, I mean, growing up as a kid, you know, I went and Jack Johnson and C.D. Colville and Dave Labor in their prime at Fonda. And I'll tell you what, if you were a kid and you went and seen that, you're still here today, like I am.
Oh, yeah, me too. I'm in the same boat. I mean, I sat in those same grandstands. I was rooting for Dave Lape all the way growing up. You know what I mean? And you could look at them as heroes. You know, I mean, I looked at these guys like they were older guys, even when I was a kid. You know, and you know, it's tough. You know what I mean? It's tough to build following, and especially for these younger guys. You know, it's like, man, the whole sport has changed. You know, it's like, you know, Jack Johnson, when we were younger, I mean, he had even Maynard, everybody. They had people all over the place that wanted to help and do things. And, you know, now, I mean, it's like Stu and Yankowski, everything. They should have freaking 20 kids that want to help and do things. And I just don't see that anymore. And I feel like that's a lot of the problem. Here's the issue right here. You know, I deal with kids all day. They can't get their head out of a phone for 2 minutes to do an assignment in social studies, let alone, you know, go to a race shop and actually do labor and do that kind of stuff. I was lucky as a kid. I went, my dad helped out Bob Reese. I don't know if you remember who that was, ran Sportsman, you know, for a long time, you know, and did a lot with him, just getting to be in his shop and watching those guys every Sunday, you know, working on the race car. You know, I thought that was the coolest thing as a kid, you know, to get up that close, you know, to a race car and a race car driver and all that. And Bob was a nobody, you know what I mean? Bob was, you know, he ran Fonda forever, but in the grand scheme of things, you know, never won anything. But it was so cool for me to be able to be, you know, in that shop and doing that kind of around it. Not that I did much, but just being around it.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I grew up, you know, a quarter mile down the road from Maynard Ferret, and you know, I mean, he had the engine dyno, everything. I mean, so when I was a kid, I was like in awe, you know, it's like, man, this is everything right here, you know. And and then like you know, then Maynard drove truck during the week, so he was a Saturday night racer. And that's another thing. Back then you had Saturday night racers that were very, very good, you know. I mean, Maynard won Race the Kings Super Dirt Series races down at Lebanon Valley on just racing Saturday nights, you know, where you know, where you lost a lot of that, you know. You lost like Dickie Larkins, you lost so many good weekend guys that battle. So now, like, you got, like, say at Fonda, you got me who races the weekend. And I mean, I'm a little, as race wise, I'm a weekend racer, you know, but as you know, in the business wise, you know, it's everything, you know, but there's not many, you know. You go to Fonda, and I race modified, and there's maybe one or two guys that work and race maybe just 1 or 2 nights a week or this, that. And everybody else after that does it 3-4 nights and is everywhere, you know. So I feel like a lot of that is gone, you know.
Well, it makes it tough too. I mean, obviously they're going to have a lot more research than what you have, you know, racing 4 or 5 nights a week. I talk with some of the guys, you know, that I hang out with, you know, at Thunder and stuff like that. And we just talk about that. You know, it's like you're racing 20 times a year or 30 times a year. They've got 30 times in before Fonda opens, or, you know, or Thunder Mountain opens.
Weekend Warrior is, you know, few and far between nowadays.
Yeah. And I think the technology has made it so hard for those guys to be as good, right? I mean, with all the shock, we were just talking shock dynos and spring smashers and all that other crap. I mean, you got to have an engineering degree at this point to figure that stuff out.
Well, back in the day, you had A, B, and C drivers, and you had A, B, and C cars. Now you got A, B, and C drivers, and you got A, B plus cars. You know what I mean? My car, I run 10th, and my car has everything in it to win it. You get what I'm saying?
Yep.
And that's what we run into nowadays.
What's the ultimate solution? How do we get back to that? Is it body rules? Is it drivetrain rules? What is it?
I think it, well, the whole concept of it is, I think the major rule organizations, need to change the cars. And what I say about this is, and I'm in this business, you know what I mean? I'm in, but as far as longevity of the sport, it's got to the point now where our cars, I think you need more. I think they need to be built a little bit more solid and rigid and everything. So in other words, there should be a longer lifespan out of the car. So like if you sell a frame and body for 14 grand, you run it for a year, you should be able to sell it for, if it's great shape, you should be able to sell it for 8 or 9. In today's day, I feel like any car that gets raced, I don't care if it's 15 races or 75 races, everybody wants to give you $3,500 for the thing.
Right.
And it's killed that part of it. You know what I mean? And I don't know, so as far as that goes, that part there, but it's tough, I don't know. I mean,
would you like to see like the flax taken out completely?
Yeah, not completely. I mean, but but some. I mean, I think there needs to be a little bit of rigidity. I feel that the rubber floors need to come out. Everything in the chassis has to be solid. No slip joints. No this that. You know what I mean? And I think maybe something behind the seat. I definitely feel like the seat needs more bracketry to hold on. And almost to a point where there's, instead of the bar going across, instead of 2 points, I feel that there needs to be 4. I mean, the seat belts, need to be tied into like a more structure around that. I mean, it's just tough because these cars, I mean, at the end of the day, they're going so fast. You know what I mean? So I just redid a 86 or 87 show car. I made it like brand new, and I looked at it and stuff, and I said, these things lasted a long time. They had, they were all solid structure, everything. But again, if it ever went into the wall like our cars do today, I think it's going to bend and bust up just as bad. So I feel like we need to unhook the cars and get the speed out of them. But but do it in a way where you make rules and whatever. I don't feel like it should be something broadcasted. It's so like I feel like I'm all for every aspect of the safety that we have, but I feel like on the entertainment value of it, it shouldn't be advertised either. So like when Earnhardt died, I mean, he was like the king, and he passed in a race car accident, and then, okay, now we're doing this for safety, that for safety, that for safety. And 5 years later, everybody wants to throw their freaking 10-year-old kid in them, so I feel like all the safety stuff, be it NASCAR, our stuff, everything should be taken well into consideration. It should be done, but let's not broadcast it.
Yeah.
Like we're talking about the Indy 5 or Daytona 500 this year, they have the things up, and Fox is saying, "Oh, these guys are running at 56% throttle." Why the hell would you even say something like that?
Right.
These guys, you get what I'm saying? You make it, you make a show, no different than once a year when you have the demolition derbies, and guys, everybody's out there going 2 miles an hour in the mud, and you got the guy on the loudspeaker, making it excited, but there's thousands of people to see it.
Yeah.
And you know what I mean? And like today, it's tough getting the grandstands filled and everything.
Yeah, it's definitely a lot harder than what it used to be to get people to go to the races. There's no doubt there. Jeff Withy asked, do you think modified racing is at a competitive disadvantage by having one super builder and then everyone else fighting for what's left? What's your thoughts on that? Obviously, he's referring to McNell.
Yeah, well, you can look at it 2 different ways. I mean, as far as super builder, I mean, listen, all the good guys they have McNells, and they're the guys that win. I mean, I mean, when Stu left us, I mean, 2 of the 3 cars had wins on it the last time he raced them, and he went into Bicknell, and nothing changed. No different than everybody else who left us didn't change. If you won 1 race a year, you still won 1 race a year.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying? So
Yep.
I'd be the first one, for me, it'd be like, all right, if this guy left me and this guy started just cleaning house, all right, you know what? I got to look into it to see what we're doing wrong. But,
Right.
I mean, we built, everybody who has our cars, I mean, seems to have very good luck. I mean, Hartman averages, I don't know how many, 18, 20 wins a year.
Every day.
You know what I mean? I mean,
Yeah.
at Lebanon Valley, I mean, I think he's lost 6 or 7 in the last 3 years.
Yeah. He's been pretty ridiculous there.
And everybody, that's Lebanon Valley, but everybody else goes down there and they seem to run 7th or 8th. He's good. Just like Albany, Saratoga, or anywhere else.
Yeah.
So the guys who work hard, are the guys, they're good. I mean, and it's I don't, what I mean. I don't know. I don't know. My opinion is I feel Stu could come back and run our car and wouldn't skip a beat.
Yeah.
Now, as someone who's had their hands on building these cars for so many years, we've seen people have success with older chassis. Do you feel as though, the quality of maybe the steel and stuff like that? Do you feel like stuff has changed pre-COVID to post-COVID?
You know what? As far as like the steel goes, I mean, you could tell like the way stuff bends and springbacks and all that kind of stuff, and everything for us has been kind of consistent. You know what I mean? But you know what I mean? We still do the same. We still do the same procedure, like our welding and everything, as we done pre-COVID and everything. I don't know. You know what I mean? It's like, who knows? You don't know what you're buying. It's just like when the motor started blowing up after pre-COVID, and everybody's sticking pistons, but the piston companies are telling you that, hey, listen, this stuff is the same, and you got the paper that says it, and no different than the valves or anything else. I mean, after COVID, there was a lot of motors that blew up to the point there was even a shortage of them. And I don't know, what I mean? It's totally out of your hands, but if we had say we had, tubing go through our bender and we bent it and it kinked or it, or it's splintered or whatever, then okay, there's a problem. But I really haven't seen much of that. You know what I mean? But, I don't know, what I mean? It's, like I said, we're still small enough where, we haven't changed our, strategy and techniques and how to weld and, how we weld them and, our to do it in, our synchromatic order and, stuff like that. So I don't know. That's a quite, but, if you went and you bought a whole run of tubing or whatever, and it was different, who knows,
Now, if you were in charge of modifieds, what would you change? Would you change something? Would you change, shock? Would you change something on the rear end? Would you change a motor rule? What can we do? Like if you ran the sport for a month, what would you do to, maybe increase car counts and bring you said, bring the heroes back? What would you do?
Well, the bottom line is the first thing I would do, and I know guys are going to disagree with me. It'd be right side panel bar. It'd be right side, and I'll tell you why. Here's my thing. Okay, so
I'm with you.
So they put the right side panel bar back in Grandview and everything. They had 58 cars. You know what? No one's going anywhere. If anything, whatever. But the fact of the matter is you know what? They can race Grandview, and at the end of the night, they don't smack their head off the seat 100 million times. We're down at Bridgeport for the opening race, and spring conditions and everything a little rough. Guys pounded their heads pretty damn good. You know what I mean? And like real good. And you know what? What do you need it for? I feel the good guys will be good. No matter what you do, the good guys will be good. Everything else. And, I don't know. Another thing is I would get the rear steer out of them, get the car straighter. I'd take the spoilers out of the back. I don't know. Like I said, I would slow them down. Tires are an issue. I mean, some of these places last year went with a harder tire, and there were some good races at some tracks, and every place is different. kind of whatever, but the shocks have gotten crazy, especially in the sportsman. Like I just heard a little while ago. Well, guess what? The sportsman guys, yeah, they can throw $200 pistons in them and everything else. Where I kind of feel like that right there should be policed.
Yep.
And listen, and I'm in the business where the way it's going, I should be right on board with it, but I just know the longevity isn't there.
Right. And that's what Matt, I mean, I think to all of us, me included, obviously we do live streaming and all that. And we always talk about the most important thing is the racetrack. We got to find ways to keep tracks open, and make the racing good enough that people want to come watch it. Right. That's the biggest part. And if, without some changes, we're going to continue to lose people. And that in the long term, if there's no racetracks, there's no car builders and there's no live streaming.
Well, I think definitely the changes would help even the racetracks as far people. Track prepping is good. This, that, and then what? Some people can get it down, but now you're like this year with all the diesel prices and going, Stu's dad is incredible with a racetrack, but you have no idea how Stu's dad. I mean, well, you guys probably do, but a lot of people don't understand what this guy does. I mean, he's incredible. And you know what? You can count on a hand on how many people can even put in that kind of time to do it.
Yep. Yeah. That's a fine art.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at what he did for Eastern States and how good he had that track for what issues they had during the year. I mean, it was incredible. He did a great job. Georgetown had some issues a couple years ago. He's been prepping that down there now for them. I mean, he definitely does a fantastic job.
There ain't nothing that guy doesn't miss. You know what I mean?
Right.
And there's only so much that he can work with, and but there's a lot of laps, a lot of time, and now you start putting diesel fuel up to $6 a gallon. It's like, hey, how much money how much money are we gonna make doing this?
Right.
And, that's kind of the stuff that I see.
Yep. The big thing we've had a lot of discussion out in our group chats has been safety. We saw obviously the hard crash, last year. Selinsgrove kind of got that conversation going. And then you had the big crash, with Stu up at Autodrome Drummond. Then just, a couple of weeks ago, we had a sportsman driver get hurt with, the tire coming into the cockpit. Is there something more that we should be doing as a sport, from a chassis manufacturer side to keep these guys, safer in the race cars? Or is there nothing we can do? Is it just, it's racing?
Well, there's a little bit of both, you know what I mean? But I feel like our cars right now with the speeds they're going, I feel like they need a more structured Nerf bar in hoop area. I feel like the crush zone needs to be out there. I know where people have talked about, intrusion plates and everything else, but that's close. You get what I'm saying? I feel like, okay, so a car now that's in the corner, your right rear bumper, I mean, it's only 6 inches off the ground, I mean, car's rolled over. So I feel like it needs like a double structure on the outside where, it can hit and take some absorption, where you got I feel like the hoops need to be hooked together on the inside, or it should be a double hoop. Or even there should like in the back of the Nerf bar, I feel that there should be 2 spots instead of 1. But I feel like all this needs to be is it has to go through the rules, so
right.
So back in the day, like when Donnelly and Bob Denny, they came in and said, okay, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, we're going to do, there's a lot of things for safety. It's just like, what it's like our exhaust system, for instance. I feel the exhaust should be out of the header, and then it should be a collector, and muffler and elbow should be before the tire. Not, I mean, right now we have the exhaust that goes right up on top of the everything. You know what I mean? And, it's like, we're watching Bridgeport and guys like Stu is backfiring on the left bank and stuff. I mean, that's a lot of flame coming out of there. You know what I mean? It's like, don't smoke when you're dumping the fuel. I mean, it's like, come on. But I feel like little things. And another thing is, the modifieds, everybody says the dust thing. Now, I said a couple years ago at the meeting, I said, we do have 2 big leaf blowers right over the freaking rear wheels, where all the other cars don't do that, you know, and they're like, oh, you know, it's the body and it's the wings and it's this, that, you know, but let's start with trying something different. You know, they weren't never that dusty, you know, and the next thing is they got to, with the way these cars are, if you don't make the track hard, it digs up. So, you know, a perfect example is Volusia. I watched how many races at Volusia, and the 4 roughest ones were the night of the mods. You know, so I don't know. I feel like that. I mean, I don't know. That's where I feel like we need to start.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, but change is tough, right? I mean, I think,
oh, yeah.
You know, that's the hardest part about racing in general. And I think our area in general change is tough.
But I feel
I think people hear change and they hear ka-ching, ka-ching, ka-ching.
Well, exactly. But you know what? I feel where change comes in is with good leadership, with big, good, strong leadership. You know, like, hey, guess what, guys? You know, back in the day, we ran $85 Flowmaster mufflers, you know, and Glenn Donnelly says, hey, guess what? I got a deal from Borla. Everybody's going to put $180. And you know what? Everyone did at whatever. Right. But I feel like racing, the biggest part about racing that has suffered, especially in our area, is I feel like the big time stuff has kind of taken away from Saturday night, where years back, if you were a Fonda track champion, you were everything, or a Lebanon Valley. And you know what? When the weekly racing was so strong, I mean, when I was a kid, you know, okay, big Super Earth Series race, yeah, so what? But you know, we're coming back to Fonda on Saturday because that's where it happens. Right. And when you were so glued into being a weekly racer or a weekly race fan, you know, if there was a big race, you were going. I mean, if we go every Saturday, oh, there's a big race, yeah, we're there. You know what I mean? Yep. Where I feel like, okay, we might go to the big race and skip 2 Saturdays and just maybe watch it on TV. I feel like the weekly track champions should be huge, because that's how Donnelly made dirt what it was, because everybody had their area. You know, you had Jack Johnson and Dave Lape here. You had McCready and Johnson's out west. You had Brett Hearn in Middletown. You had, you know, Horton in Jersey. Pouch, you know, I mean, you had heroes like all over the place, because it was a big deal to be a Saturday night winner, a track champion. And you know, I can remember being a kid. Maynard won the track champion in 1971. That was before me. He says that year, you know, it was everything. He says, like, man, he goes, you know, he said, people, you know, I got offered parts and this, that, and you know, it was a big deal to be a track champion back in the day. And he, you know, and then shit, he goes, he made enough money with the point money. He went out and bought a El Camino. You know what I mean? A car. You know, it was only $3,500 then, but I don't know. Exactly. But you get what I'm saying? Where once you were a track champion, you were everything.
It was something, right? It mattered. And I think, again, we did a better job back then too of, you know, we've talked on this show how fans don't have the interaction with the drivers that we had when we were kids. Like, and I think that's a big thing, right? There is not as much fan engagement. I mean, you used to know when Fonda was done, the pits opened and everybody was still there, right? You walked through the pits. If you were a little kid, you could go meet any guy you wanted to meet, because they were still going to be in the pits. They were going to be signing autographs. They were going to be drinking beers with their crew guys and just enjoying the night. And that never happens anymore. That is a very rare occurrence that the night is over and there's more than 20 guys still sitting in the pits.
I also think it's, you know, a lot of the back gate nowadays. You can't have a Friday night show with 8 divisions. You just can't.
100%.
You can't. It's as much on the track promoters as it is the fans, as it is the drivers. Everybody's got to have their own part, and you can't have the back gate pay more than the front gate and have it be sustainable. You can't having the 3rd division of the night rolling off at 11:30, because guess what? Half the fans you're trying to draw are either sleeping because they're not young enough to make it past 11:30. Or they're too old and they after the headline divisions, they're in the parking lot.
Well, you know, like I grew up, you know, like, you know, I didn't wake up Christmas morning and have modifieds or wheels or anything under the Christmas. So, you know, I mean, everything that I've done is I've made a life of working hard to get to what I've done and where I've gotten, you know, and my first feeling is, you know what, sometimes racing just probably ain't cut out for everybody. And I feel like if you have the heart to build something, to do something, to make it happen, then that's what makes it great. Where today, I feel like a lot of this is very easy for people to get a hold of and get going. Oh, guess what? I don't have the money for a modified. Well, I'm going to run a sportsman. Well, I don't have money for a sportsman. And then we're running 4 cylinders every week, and I'm not knocking anything, but I feel like at some aspects of it is, back in the day when you built a race car and you got to the racetrack, that was the first big obstacle. And I feel like it's nothing, I mean, no different. Yeah. I grew up, as a kid going to the races. I learned the race cars. I learned everything before I even thought, I always wanted to race, but I wanted to learn it and everything else. I mean, in today's day, you got guys that go out and buy race cars. They never been in the pits to watch a race night.
Yeah.
So they don't even know the fundamentals of going to the races.
Right.
Where, when I first started racing, I probably built 11 or 12 cars. And what I mean? And I don't know. I feel like this racing was, I mean, you I look like, say, at Fonda, you still see people like, Elton Palmer and all. I mean, the heart that these guys got that, they built, racing with, it's like, I don't know. I feel like that's missing.
Yeah.
So
again, it's different. It's different. Adam, go ahead, Adam.
Do you feel like, and it's hard to put the genie back in the bottle, right? But I kind of get where you're coming from. Because with the pay-per-view and the Dirt Vision and the Dirt Track Digest.tv, now DTD TV, they do, you can
lump us in, Adam. You don't have to justify it. It's okay.
Well, you guys hone more in on the local tracks, the local Friday.
Yeah, that's our thing. Right? That's our local.
I feel like with the 3 national series, the series has gotten bigger than maybe what it should be. In the modifieds, maybe we have too many super dirt car series and short track super series races when really we should maybe, shrink the national schedule and get it back to more, your points count more at a local home track. And then maybe we would see car counts explode more because you get there's more of a emphasis on the regular Friday and Saturday night tracks and not, okay, who's going, to Delaware this week and then up to Can-Am this week because they're chasing the national the national points. But it's hard we've made it this big thing, and now we can't go backwards.
Well, here's the thing, out of all these big classes like sprint cars and late models, everything for regional, and I still think for like on a weekly basis, if you look at it over the course of the country, I mean, I feel like we're still pretty strong. Okay, so what I mean by that is like everybody, the late models. Well, yeah, if you turn on Flow and you watch the late models and you're watching all the best guys go to all these certain big races all over the country, yeah, it's awesome. But you know what? So I got friends that live down in Louisiana and Texas. They got super late models and stuff. If they want to go somewhere, they got to go 6-7 hours. Yeah, there's some late model guys that race at the tracks, but all their tracks are like, 8-9 cars in a class with 10 different classes, So yeah, it's great at the national level, but weekly. So like for us, our regional level, I mean, we got probably 100 and some big block modifieds that run weekly, and Dirt Week brings 70. Okay, well, there's 3,000 late models, and the World 100 brings 150. You know what I mean? If the percentages, our percentages I think are better as far as our regional thing, and I feel like it should be regional, and I feel like I feel like they've made it more than what it should be. Like I feel like being a dirt series modified racer shouldn't be, okay, I got a full-time job and I got 3 guys that work full-time with me, because the way the series is drawn out is you can't have a job and do it unless you're an owner that has good people work for you.
Right.
So I don't know. I think they've kind of made something more out of it than it is, I feel like the series should be more local, and I feel like it should be like Wednesday of every, Wednesday of during the weeks between Memorial Day and, and Labor Day.
And that's kind of what it always was. And then you had all your big races at the end of the year, right? Everything at the end of the year was combined. We don't have that anymore. I mean, it used to be every weekend was somebody's race, right? You had the Lebanon Valley 200, Rolling Wheels 200. you had the Fonda 200, you had Super Dirt Week, then you had Eastern States, right? And you kind of ran it that way. Yeah, right.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Everybody
Yep.
had their time in the sun,
Yeah. Cole Trickle asks, do you think that all the tire prep that goes into today's tires is necessary? The constant grinding, wrapping in plastic, etc.
It's necessary, but if they say they didn't allow it, then they didn't allow it. Then the guys would probably buy twice the amount of tires to make up. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I feel that years ago we made a tire rule to save people money. Now I feel like we've made a tire rule where it's monopolized, where nobody can compete and the price just keeps going up. And now we're spending $260 a tire, and there's no competition in it. And I know that's where people get their money. That's I think it's too much money.
Yeah. Yeah, tires have been a big expense. I can tell you that price has.
It's too much money.
Yeah, since COVID, it has went. I mean, it is insane.
You know who likes the tire prices? American Racer and Hoosier. If you're not those two people, you hate tire prices right now.
Yeah, but I'll tell you, like the guys who sell them, I mean, they're pulling their hair out. You know what I mean? You don't make much money. It'd be one thing if the tires sold and there was money to be made, but I don't know. I sold tires back when I was a kid with Maynard, so I knew. So if you're making $20 a tire and a tire's $300, you got to sell 15 of them to make up for the one that just sits.
Yeah,
that's a tough business, and I don't know. I feel like that could have been an outlet to be cheaper, and now, okay, guess what? But you know what? The way these tracks are, the way the stands are, people need money in all different places.
Yep.
And I don't necessarily know how we could change that. And,
yep.
I
think we got another fan question here. I think you kind of touched on this, but it was talking about, Stu's Rack. Were you and other chassis builders able to see it and look at things that you could do to make the car safer? Which I think you kind of touched on that already.
Yes, I have. Absolutely. I mean, I've seen Stu's chassis quite a bit, and, we looked at it, and Bob Slack came down and looked at it, and, it's one of them things where, like I said, I mean, there's so many different variables, but there's a lot of ways that I think that could be built. We could be making it better, but it has to stem through the rules. You get what I'm saying?
Right. Everybody has to do it. Right. Everybody has to do it, or nobody's going to do it.
So, I mean, and we're all in the same boat, I mean, all of us chassis, it isn't like this guy builds a featherweight car and I build Killdozer, it's right. I mean, but yeah, I feel like there's a lot of things that need to be changed about it. But I like I said, but I feel like they need to be unhooked. They need to be slowed down. I feel like they need to go down the straightaway straighter instead of, with all the, without the rear steer and everything else. And like I said, I know it's going backwards, but at the end of the day, it's about the people in the stands that want to see a good battle and this, that. And don't get me wrong, there's some good races and everything else, but a lot of times there isn't.
It's still entertainment. That's the one thing I tell people all the time. Like I tell drivers that all the time, that complain about certain things. I'm like, look, this is still entertainment. And at the end of the day, all you guys can come in the pits, but if there ain't enough people sitting in the stands to watch it, it's not going to matter. I mean, you look at what's happening at Orange County. Orange County probably has the strongest car count week in and week out. And because of the taxes and all the other things that go on down there, they can't get it. They don't have enough fans to help pay for all that excessive stuff that they have to pay. Yeah. And as a result, that place is barely hanging on. So I definitely am in that boat with you.
The bottom line is the stands used to be full and now they're not. So whatever way we're going, definitely, and don't get me wrong, there's some nights that, guys hit home runs and, perfect weather, everything. I mean, look at I was looking at a video earlier today of Middletown with the diesel stuff. You couldn't believe the people in there. It's absolutely, it's crazy.
Yeah.
Like Ronnie came up last year and we were watching my house. We had dinner and stuff. Pete and all them guys were there, and we were watching 85 Eastern States. It was incredible. It was incredible. The people that were there. It's like, how did we lose these people? Did we lose them because it's too much money to go? Did we, listen, the movie theaters lost everybody too. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah,
So
right.
it just isn't racing. You know what I mean?
Yep. Yeah. It's life in general. But
yeah,
it just anything entertainment wise is a tougher way to make money now because again, people don't go out as much as they used to, right? They sit home, they have entertainment at their fingers, they have movies, they have racing, they have everything at home. You don't need to go out and do anything. Same reason why the bar business isn't doing as well, right? Like people don't go out to go have drinks anymore. Yeah. They'll stay home and watch in TV, etc.
When I was a kid, I'd go to the pits and Maynard would pay our way in the pits at Lebanon Valley. It'd be $10 or $15 to get in the pits. You would have thought we made $500 that week. But anyway, I'm getting to the point where if I went somewhere else and said, "Hey, Dad, can I go? I want to go in the pits." Well, how much is it? $15. Yeah, all right. And I don't know if you're going to go next week. But if I ever said to my dad, "Hey, Dad, I need to get in the pits." "Oh yeah, how much is it to get in?" I need $45. I wouldn't even ask. And you know what?
Yeah.
And you know what? I wouldn't be going racing.
Yeah. Yep. Oh, I get it.
And I feel like that's the problem.
Yeah.
Oh, 100% that is the problem. I talked to a couple racers that are changing where they race on a weekly basis because their kids get in free or less at one racetrack as opposed to another racetrack. And I get it. I work in insurance. I know what the deal is. I know why they charge what they charge, but it sucks.
Yeah, it does.
And we're talking about how, less fans in the stands, less fans in the stands, less fans in the stands. Let's be honest, we shoot ourselves in the foot because, you take a young kid and bring him through the pits, let him get near the car, let him sit by the car, and there's a fan right there. Well, hey, Dad, when are we going back next week?
Well, here's the next thing too, which I don't think a lot of people look at. So when we were younger, we couldn't get in the pits until we were 14 years old. Mm-hmm. So, but when we went racing at 12, 13, whatever, a lot of us drag, like I can tell you, I dragged my dad and mom to the races. They used to go almost every week. And I don't think my mom and dad went racing in the last 30 years. You get what I'm saying? Once I got old enough to go in the pits myself and everything. But before that, all us kids kind of drag. So, I used to bring my friends to the races. I would, if you're into it, you sell it. You get what I'm saying?
Right. Yeah.
And I feel like with a lot of these people, like these kids that, like I said, I can remember being a kid and, Ronnie and Ronnie's sister. And, we were all in the stands, and we brought our friends. I brought my friends and, and then, okay. So, it kind of built up and, I'm telling you, the time I turned 14 and could go into pits, it was like, whoo-hoo,
Yeah.
And I feel like that kind of builds heart for the sport also. And nowadays, you got kids in the pits and, they don't even care to be there. It's like, Jesus.
Yeah. Walking with their phone down the center of the road.
You know what I mean? But that's, I know, but
Darwin Award winners.
Yep. Well, Emac, I got one more question for you since we've kept you here almost an hour. And it's been fantastic, buddy. I appreciate you coming on. This.
Blabbering,
No. Look, this is what we want to do. We want to have these conversations, and again, we want everybody's perspective because we're all. The reason Maddie and I kind of started this was to give Northeast Modifieds more attention, and kind of get some more love in our division and try to help grow and try to get some people interested. But Cody Decker always asks every guest, "Who is the greatest modified driver of all time?" So I'll let you end with that question.
Well, I could do like everybody else and give you all these different answers. Brett Hearn.
There you go.
Okay, you know what?
To the point.
You know what? To be the man, you got to beat the man. You know what? I grew up. CD Colville was one of my favorite. He was my favorite. I love him to this day. Okay.
CD is awesome.
And Jack Johnson and Maynard. You know what? Bob Savoy. I got to grow up with some pretty cool guys, and I've been fortunate enough to know almost everybody across the board.
Yeah.
And you know what? To be the man, you got to beat the man. And if you do the numbers, maybe someday that might change. I don't know, but Brett Hearn is definitely the man.
Yep, there it is.
I don't know how you even come up with something different.
Yeah, I understand. We had somebody earlier commented that nobody mentions Billy Pouch, and my only argument is we say greatest modified driver of all time. Pouch did a lot of other things and won in a lot of other race cars. When you kind of put those two
I
things
equate
together,
him just as much his sprint car as the
right. Yeah, that's the other thing, right? So a lot of his wins are in modifieds, but you look at Hearn. Hearn was the modified guy. He's the guy.
Whatever, yeah, 100%. And you get everybody. Oh, he always had the money. Well, you know what? I feel like if you gave Brett this much money and gave everybody else that much money, at the end he's going to come back with the most wins and still have the most money.
Right, he's that good.
Money don't buy talent.
Nope, it does not.
I'll tell you what, talent is using money correctly and coming out on top even more.
Yep. Eric, you got any websites or anything you want to promote before we let you go, buddy?
Yeah, we got you go to dkmracecars.com. We do the models. Anybody wants a model, we do thousands of them now, and it's crazy. You know what I mean? And
I can attest, it's a quality product. People love it. I had some cars made for the Monster Bash.
There, Mike.
Yeah, I've got cars all over the place. But I had special ones made for the Monster Bash, and they did a great job. The quality's great. Kids loved them. I sold all but like the ones I gave away. Like I gave one to every sponsor. The sponsors were appreciative, and every other one I didn't give away, I sold them all out.
So a funny story was last week a guy calls and he wants to order like 10 cars, and I'm like, wow. He goes, listen, you have no idea what we do to these cars now. I'm like, what do you mean? Well, we cut the axles out of them. He says we put a tube in, we put another axle and these different tires in. We built like a Pinewood derby track, and now we all race these things.
That's pretty awesome.
This is a classic car, you know what I mean?
That's awesome. That's awesome.
So, you know what? We're going to have to slow the models down too.
Yeah, you're starting your own division here on the
the
Derby.
It's like, man, all right, now we got models on crack. Great.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome, man. Well, hey, buddy, I appreciate it, man. This has been an awesome conversation, Emac. I appreciate you, man.
Hey, thank you for having me.
No problem, man. You have a good night.
Thanks for coming on.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye. I can talk with Emac all night. He's a great guy,
sure.
Great promoter of the sport, loves racing.
Yeah.
I mean,
to be honest with you, at first I wasn't sure if I was on board with what he was saying, but the more he was talking about it, he nailed it.
Yeah,
he nailed it.
Yeah, he's very good, very knowledgeable. Obviously, builds race cars. He's been around the sport. Is very close with Stuart Friesen, that whole gang. So knows a lot to do with what the cars do and all of that. Mm-hmm. And so on and so forth. So we got two things left, and then we're gonna get out of here. Sorry, Eric, other Eric. We're taking you along tonight, buddy. We're taking you along tonight, but we couldn't do it without that. So let's do this first. Can-Am predictions. What are we thinking for the weekend? We'll get through that.
Ooh, who's really good at Can-Am? Can-Am's like a great equalizer. You see people like Mahaney start to like really turn it on at Can-Am. Like he's got the new configuration.
Right, we're just going Super Duper Series. We're just going to pick on Saturday.
Super Car Series. Oh, you know what? He hasn't had a good couple weeks, but and this is going to sound like a homer pick, but Matty Williamson, I think he's going to figure it out this week.
All right, Eric, producer Eric, you got a pick. You'll put it in the private chat. I'll let you do that. I know my pick. I'm going to pick Tim Fuller.
Ooh,
he should have won one last year or the year before, and completely got into the back of a lap car, getting a little hot.
Yeah,
and jacked him around. So I'm going to pick Tim Fuller to come out strong. He is so good.
He's really good there.
I probably just jinxed him, and he'll be mad at me if he watches the show. I doubt he does, but some night I'll have him on.
Yeah.
Eric, you got a pick over there yet?
Hey, if you have him on, you got to ask him about his nickname.
Tim Fuller?
Yes, and he won't be there.
If we ever have him on, I will tell the story, because he hates Empire Executioner. I can tell you that.
And it's on his fire suit.
That's the best part. He still wears that old fire suit. So when I see it, it's got Empire Executioner down the side. I love busting his balls about it.
Well, we draw for the Outlaw 200. I go, all right, next up, Tim Fuller. I know better than to ask for his nickname.
Yeah. So Eric going with the Felix Waugh pick.
Oh, and you know what? Reading some of these comments, Billy Dunn's a great pick too.
Billy Dunn would be a good comment. Yeah, that would definitely be a good one. I'm going to say they're going to have a lot of cars this weekend. We're talking car counts. They're kicking off 358 racing up here in the Northeast. They're kicking off the Super Dirt Series here in the Northeast. I think they're going to have a boatload of cars this weekend.
I'm going to go 60 358s, and I think they'll have 48 big blocks.
You're going 100 cars, over 100 cars total for the weekend. I would be in the 100 car for the 2 nights. That would be my prediction. Right around 100 cars between the two. Mm-hmm. Jeff Withy, will Fuller's interest rod be on par if he comes on? Yes. The greatest quote
tagged in 20 minutes, but
greatest quote in racing of all time. Tim, why'd you pull off? Broken interest rod. All right. Last thing,
funky things about car counts too. It is going to be, and it's another topic for another day when I guest host again. But I'm hearing some weird things about car counts at racetracks this year. It'll be interesting.
Well, see, you don't know. You know what you know about car counts? Nothing until you open the gate the first week. Yeah. That's when you know. That's when you know about car counts. All right, last segment. Eric, you know what it is.
Driver of the week.
You like that, Adam?
I do.
little Doug Logan.
I can see Doug Logan.
I know. That's why Eric ripped it for us. That's awesome.
Driver of the week.
I love it. I love it. Hopefully Dirt Car doesn't give me crap about that, but I don't think they will. I think it's cool. No. All right, so we had winners this week: Mike Lasowski, Billy Pouch Jr., Loudon Reimer, and Alex Payne. All right, my pick for driver of the week, and based on he got a win on Saturday, and then he also got a top. What did he finish? Top 3 at Big Diamond in the season opener. And my driver of the week pick is going to be Loudon Reimer. What do you think of that one?
I like Loudon Reimer. I think he's definitely turning some heads. Nice to see another Pennsylvania product start doing well and in the modified ranks. So I can I respect the pick. I tip my hat, but my driver of the week is going to go to the 70A. Alex
Payne. You're picking Alex. Where Alex was at Big Diamond on Friday. Now I don't know where he finished though. This was my determining factor to give you my reasoning as to why I went that way with it, because I looked at the head-to-head and they both had run on Friday night, and I got to find the results here. Hold on.
So Payne went +5 and Pat Shepard, who started on the knob.
So but okay. Let's be fair though. Okay, you're going Payne. Well, I got to say, I'm saying Reimer beat 57 other drivers.
Okay.
All right. That's literally, those are my 2 arguments. So where did Alex Payne finish on? Alex finished 6th on Friday night. So Loudon got a win and a 3rd. Alex got a 1st and a 6th.
Okay, so hear me out though. Alex Payne passed Mike Maresca, Danny Johnson, Matt Williamson, and Matt Shepard to win. Who did Logan Reimer pass to win?
He battled with, who did he
pass?
With Eddie Strada, Jeff Strunk. Read the story. It's on the front page.
Yeah, but did he pass them?
Yeah, he had to pass guys. Yeah, he did.
Payne passed them all.
Yeah, he had to pass guys.
Where'd he start? Where'd he start?
I don't have starting positions because we don't put those in. I don't have starting positions. They don't use my race pass.
Give me a sec. Oh, they don't. Well, there.
Once up front after patching Pouch, Reimer started the late, so he had to pass Pouch at least. I don't see where he started. Let me start pole position. Yeah, okay. So he started outside the front row. He still had a Pouch. He held off Strunk.
So he started outside knob, and you're giving him driver of the week?
Yeah, he won $7,500. Plus, he got 3rd at Big Diamond. This is not even negotiable here. It's my show. I picked it.
Okay.
Jamie Weeknight
just voted you count because you just called him Logan Reimer.
He's thinking Logan Watt. That's why. That's his problem. At least he didn't call Logan Watt Ryan. I mean, I've heard that before too. But all right, we'll wrap it with that after busting some chops here. That was a good time. That was good. And we went a little long tonight. But again, thanks to Jessica Power for being on. Of course, thanks to she was awesome as well. Great conversation with her. Got a little bit of her story, how she started in the 4 cylinders and all of that. So pretty awesome there. Then, of course, EMAC basically having what we do every time we go and we're in a race shop, talking about the state of the sport. What can we do to fix it? How can we make it better? And that was a great conversation with EMAC. So tons of fun there. Again, we'll be back here next Monday night at 7 o'clock. Adam may or may not be. Who knows what Maddie's doing? You never know with his work schedule. It's starting to get a little crazy with his work schedule. So there's some times when he's going to have to bail. So I'll be
Super subs always available. I got out of putting the kids to bed and bathe them tonight. So
yeah,
super
so I will
anytime you want.
Yeah, I'll let you know on that one. So again, thanks for everybody for tuning in. Want to again, of course, thank our friends at High Torque of New York for their support and being on board. And if you need anything, if you do any industrial stuff and need high-powered torque tools, High Torque of New York is your go-to. So we again want to thank them. So that'll be a wrap. Thanks to the race fans. I don't know if I thanked you, but I'll thank you again if I did. We appreciate you watching. Appreciate you spending an hour and a half with us here tonight, or hour and 45 minutes. My God. Sorry, Eric, that we've been on tonight. But again, so thanks to producer Eric Schneck, to my co-host here tonight, Adam Cannon. For all of us here Monday Night Modifieds, I'm Mike Mallett saying so long for now.
From Niagara to the Hudson, from Champlain to Erie, from nuclear to farming, High Torque of New York is your one-stop shop for torque tool and industrial bolting needs. Easily loosen or achieve accurate torque and bolt load with pneumatic, battery, or hydraulic-powered units. Serving every industry, mining and aggregates, transportation, energy, structural steel, and rail. On-site torque wrench calibration and repair, sales and rentals, training, bolting solutions, and more.
DirtTrackDigest.tv is your #1 source for watching dirt track racing live or on demand from anywhere.
Johnson, and they make contact!
On your smartphone, tablet, computer, or TV. DirtTrackDigest.tv is the ultimate streaming experience for race fans, brought to you by race fans. DirtTrackDigest.tv. If it's on dirt, it's on DirtTrackDigest.tv.